Thanks for joining me, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about how to do sales cold email outreach for lead generation to help you find new customers, as well as maybe some new partnerships or other co-marketing opportunities or things like that. Uh, I got to say that first, before we get into this, that the content of this webinar changed kind of over the last week because originally, I was going to share with you kind of my unique workflow that I do for cold outreach using some of my favorite tools, including Postaga. But if you've logged into your Postaga account in the last week, if you have one, we recently launched a new lead generation campaign type that takes a lot of the finagling and tweaking out of it to really make it easier for you to do that. So I'm going to show you anyway my whole process for all of this. In particular, if you are a business and looking to connect with other businesses as well, this kind of outreach can help you find new customers pretty easily, and especially in different markets if you're trying to connect with other people in other cities around the world or wherever. And the kind of workflow that we're going to show you can really save you time that you would otherwise, that sometimes can just like sometimes uses teams of people rather than here. I'm going to show you how you can do it as one person. One quick housekeeping stuff. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to use the Q&A box on this webinar platform, and I'll get to those. Is this webinar being recorded? Yes. And given that we are using Zoom this time, we should be getting that recording working pretty quickly and get that back to you quickly if you have to duck out for any reason. If you were on our last webinar, I thank you very much for our patience in getting that recording to you. I know it took a little while, which is why we're using Zoom now. Anyway, let's dive right in. So today we're talking about how to do sales cold outreach. A little bit about me. Who is this person that's talking to you today? My name is Andy Cabasso. I'm a co-founder at Postaga, and before starting Postaga, I started, grew, and then sold a successful digital marketing agency. We were focused specifically in the vertical, in the industry of marketing for lawyers and law firms. Grew that, sold it to another company in the legal services related space. And today I am running Postaga. I also happen to be a lawyer, although I'm not really practicing. So a quick disclaimer, any legal related input that you get from me is not legal advice. Also, just fun fact about me, in case you're looking to learn a little bit more about myself. This past summer, I officiated at a socially distanced wedding for a handful of friends. Thanks, Thomas, for not holding that against me. All right, so what are we talking about today? I'm going to do a walkthrough with you of doing cold outreach for sales and lead gen. I'm going to show you the entire process that I do for doing outreach for lead gen. I know people that have, and I'll also talk about some things that other people and colleagues have done, and they do, and how our process is similar and how it differs. I'm also going to talk a little bit about lead management and CRM, as well as best practices and tips for your pitch, and also going to share an offer for you at the end. Another question we had, we are on automatic mute. Yes, everyone should be on mute. And then at the very end, we're going to do a Q&A, asking, and you can ask any other questions, and we'll get to those. A quick poll, actually, I want to get to before we dive in. It'll help me learn a little bit more about all of you. The poll is going, you'll see it on your screen. It's, are you doing any cold outreach currently for sales? So the poll is now open. And please feel free to share your feedback, and then we'll close this out in about 30 seconds or so, or when everyone has submitted their answers, and we'll then close this out and move on. All right, I'm gonna close that out here. The question was, are you currently doing any cold email outreach? And I'll share the results with you. Currently, about 46% are, 27% aren't, and 27% have in the past but are not currently. Years ago, cold outreach was something that I kind of experimented with and dabbled in for prospecting and finding potential customers, and it didn't work out well with my attempt. And over time, I learned why and what it was that I was doing wrong, so that when I did more outreach in the future, it got much better results. So that's our poll question, and thanks everyone for submitting your answers to that. So next up, we're going to dive in, and I'll show you kind of everything that I use for my cold outreach workflow. So first thing, if you haven't yet, grab a Postaga account. That's at postaga.com, Postaga.com. We have a free trial, so you can check it out and kind of see how it all works and can work for you with cold outreach. So that's kind of step one of this process. There are many tools and apps out there that can help you with everything from like prospecting to finding email addresses to sending outreach emails. Postaga is an all-in-one tool that helps out with all of that. So with Postaga, it's going to help us to find relevant people, find the right contact people at each of the companies that we want to reach out to, as well as send them personalized email messages and follow-up messages to pitch them your business. So a little bit about like kind of why we do cold email outreach. Well, first is that it can make you money. It can connect you with potential customers. It's also generally favorable because it is something that is scalable, that if you're not going after necessarily enterprise customers, but you're trying to target a particular industry and business type, there are lots of opportunities, and you could kind of keep running outreach campaigns to members of this audience. Like, for example, one common thing for many funded startups is they'll build teams of basically a business development rep whose job is to prospect and find potential customers. Then they build outreach sequences and then follow up with them. And then once they've made contact with them, they have reps who do demos and then reps who close. And it's that like 2 to 3 person workflow that a lot of businesses have to find these potential customers. And as they scale, they'll add more like pods, if you will, like teams of 2 to 3 people, with people responsible for prospecting and people responsible for doing demos and responsible for closing sales, because it is very workable. There's a great book that I would recommend actually on this topic. It's called Predictable Revenue, which really kind of brought this concept. Another thing I want to share is that with lead gen, with doing this cold outreach, it also can be a good way for testing your messaging and seeing if it resonates with your audience. So, for example, if I'm trying to pitch Postaga to digital marketers, for example, if I'm testing out different messaging and I can see what's getting me responses, I can think, all right, well, maybe that's something I want to focus on, maybe more on our website, or focus on our content, so or our landing pages for that matter, because I'm getting real-time feedback here and seeing what is working for these audiences. As I was mentioning, the traditional process that I've seen for a lot of businesses, especially as they're trying to scale up, is they will have 2 to 3 person teams where you have a rep who job is to build lists of prospects. So it's everything from using LinkedIn or Google or what have you, as well as other databases to try and find businesses of a certain type. Another tool that's actually popular is called Built With, which lets you see different companies' technology stacks. So if, for example, you want to reach out to anyone with a WordPress website to pitch them your WordPress plugin or something like that, that can be a good tool for prospecting people based on technology. And there are a lot of different things out there like that. But in this setup I'm talking about, you have a business development rep whose job is to prospect and find contacts, email addresses, find the right contact people to make sure they're in the right role, and build these lists basically, and maybe also do the email outreach for these prospects. So building the emails, scheduling them, sending them, as well as the follow-ups. And then you have another person on the team who is a sales rep who, once you've made contact with that business, you want to get them on a demo, and then you want to follow up with them and close them. And you have typically also another person, an account rep, whose job is to close that sale. Now, that's great for a larger organization. I know a lot of people here are bootstrapped, are startups, are scrappy, or don't have the resources. But we have a way to really streamline these processes, so you don't necessarily need an entire team or teams, plural, of people to be doing this all for you. So my process, what I do for cold outreach, and I do this all the time, is basically I'm responsible for prospecting, creating the pitches, doing the outreach, the follow-up, and then once I get replies, I can easily set demos and appointments, and then follow up with and close sales. So let's dive right in. I'm going to show you exactly how I do all of this. So let me share my screen with you. All right, and now you should be seeing my Postaga account screen. Thumbs up or let me know, everyone see that? All right, cool. So as I mentioned before, the first thing that we're going to need is a Postaga account. To do this, I'm in my Postaga account now. And if you're not familiar, Postaga is a platform that helps with doing outreach, whether it's for promoting your blog content to build links, to do digital PR, to get press coverage or featured on a podcast or things like that, or promote your business otherwise, as well as doing outreach for sales lead gen. And if you haven't logged into your Postaga account in the last week, you might notice that our screen looks a little different today. We've been adding more and more campaign types lately, and having one list seemed more unwieldy. So we are making categories now, and we're going to be adding more campaign types in the future. We might even have one coming in the next week or so that I think you're going to like. So we've got this campaign type for generating sales leads. I'm going to click that. And so we got this campaign type for sales lead gen, and it's going to help us find businesses that we want to connect with. One thing that is relevant to this, I'm going to show you here. I click this button for this drop down. When we try and find contacts at Postaga for your company that you're trying to reach out to, we can also target specific people by their role at the company. So if you want to target someone in the marketing department, you can type in marketing here, and that's the default. If you want to target like a director or CEO or something like that, you can do that as well. And so I'm going to throw in CEO here. Let's say that's who I want to target. And then we're going to move on to trying to find the right sales leads for us. So we have options here, but basically what this is going to look like is we're going to choose a location if we want to target by location. If not, I'm just going to click this little disabled button, and it's going to target globally. And then we're going to enter in a type of business that we want to connect with. So in this example that I'm going to do here, I'm going to target people in New York, businesses in New York that do that are, let's say, SEO agencies. I want to connect with SEO agencies to share with them Postaga. I think it would be a good tool in their arsenal for link building and outreach. So I'm going to search for SEO agency, and I'm just going to click find result, and it's that easy. Other things I want to share also is you can obviously change the country and city that you're targeting, as well as the language of the people you're trying to reach out to. So I'm going to click find result here, and we're going to get different SEO agencies located in the New York area. So the next thing I see, I'll see a bunch of businesses in New York that are SEO agencies, and these all look great. Looks legit. I'm scrolling through these, and I can, if I want, I can click on these links, and it'll take me to their page, and I can kind of review it if I want to, and see is this company, is this website a good fit for me. But also, I can easily click select all, and it will grab all of these. So then I can reach out to all of them. If I click show all results down here, it'll give me more. And another option that we have also is this load more button. And if I click load more, it'll give me even more results. But you see how that works. I'm just going to move on ahead now and click this analyze 65 results button so I can reach out to these people. And next, what's going to happen is Postaga is going to grab information related to each of these websites and try and find the right contact person and in the right department of each of these companies. You also will see on the right side over here different links to different parts of their websites, whether it's their blog page or a LinkedIn page. So for example, if I wanted to do a little bit more research here at this stage, I can click this LinkedIn button, and it would show me kind of a search information related to people at different roles at this company. Another thing is if we're trying to find the right people also, I can click this little button over here, and this is the target person that Postaga deems to be the most relevant in this role at the company. Also, we have a LinkedIn integration here. If I click this little plus button on the left side, it will give me a list of people that Postaga found on LinkedIn at this company. So at this company, we have this person here, and this person is the CEO. Great, we found them. And so we're then in our next step going to try and find their email address. And I can kind of look through these. These all look great. Other relevant pages that if for any reason like we cannot find the right person, like one thing that we have here is this team page. And so I can click this button, which will take me to the team page that we found at this company. And so I feel like, all right, so I want to reach out to maybe this person here. I'm going to go back and throw that person's name in there. But our LinkedIn integration is pretty strong and can find us generally the right people that we're looking for. Oh, and it did find this person also in LinkedIn. Great. So I can click use that contact, and it'll automatically add that person. So I can go through these one by one, or I could let Postaga do its magic and select it for me, depending on how in-depth I want to get with my prospecting. But Postaga generally does a very good job of automatically retrieving the right relevant person for each of these roles at these companies. So next up, what's going to happen is we're going to retrieve the email addresses for these specific contacts. I already went ahead. I'm switching tabs real quick, just like if you ever watch a cooking show and they swap out a bowl of raw ingredients for the finished product. When we click get contacts, it's going to take a little while to find the contacts. So I've already done the work of doing that for us. So let's scroll down here, and Postaga is going to give me then the contacts at these companies. One thing also to share, which is important, is if you run enough outreach campaigns, you're going to start running into the same people. It'll happen. Like if I target London or Leeds, or maybe I'm not familiar as good with UK geography, but if I target cities near each other, there are chances that I'm going to run into the same company and the same contact. So one thing that we do is we have this previous campaigns button here that if I click, it'll let me know what previous campaign did I do that I had reached out to this person. And I've reached out to a lot of the New York SEO agencies. So I've have these previous campaigns here. And so one thing that Postaga lets you do is it lets us easily and automatically exclude contacts that we have reached out to in the past. So real quick, I'll just show you how I do that. At the very bottom of these results, I've got this little plus icon over here, and I can remove contacts with previous campaigns. So I'm going to do that, and it's probably going to eliminate a lot of these results here. But I still got a bunch. So now what's happening, Postaga will return the contact information for people at each of these websites. You'll also notice things like email is verified or it's catch-all. So if you're not familiar kind of how that works, well, first we try and verify everyone's email addresses to make sure that when we reach out to them, it's going to hit their inbox. There are many email finding services out there, and many of which do not validate the email addresses. So if they get you an email address, they'll say like, all right, we think this is good, but then you reach out and it bounces or is undeliverable. And if you get a lot of those, that'll decrease your overall deliverability, preventing you from getting to real people's inboxes and make it more likely that you end up in spam. That's no good. So now with every email address we find, we try and verify. We also have this designation for catch-all, which basically the summary is if someone has catch-all set up for their domain, it will any email address combination theoretically at that domain works, but it may not reach the person that you're hoping it would. So one thing that we can do is if we want to, we can exclude catch-alls, which will likely increase our deliverability a little bit. But if you want, you can keep catch-alls there as well. So another thing I want to point out here is we also try and find Twitter and LinkedIn contact details for each of these contacts. So if I look over here, great, I got Twitter and LinkedIn. So if I click on this, I click on the Twitter, if I click on LinkedIn, next what's going to happen, I'm going to find that person as well as find them on LinkedIn. One thing that you might want to do as part of your outreach campaign, it'll take a little bit more time, but it's more personal and may make it more likely that you get a positive response, is first, going through this list, reaching out to everyone on LinkedIn to connect with them, and then as a next step, reaching out to them through the email outreach. So it's less cold and maybe a little bit warmed up, so they at least recognize your name maybe. So that's basically contacts. And so now I have all these contacts. Great. I want to reach out to them. Now we have a few options here. One, you could easily export all of these contact details to a CSV file if you have another email CRM platform you want to use, or you can also move forward and Postaga can do this all for you. Oh, last thing is all of these fields here can be edited. So if you need, if you want to edit it, anything like this, like let's say, all right, the contact that the company name that they found here doesn't look quite right. So I'm just going to do that. And I can edit that. And these fields will be used for merge fields in our outreach emails so that it'll say something like, hey, Troy, I came across Gramercy Global and I wanted to share this with you, kind of thing. So next up, we choose an email sequence. And if you, and so basically what we do with email sequences, we create sequences that are several emails pitching our product or services to these different businesses. And so I have a pitch here that's designed specifically for agencies. And so what it entails is a sequence where I send an email, wait 5 days, send a follow-up email, and so on and so on. And so I send follow-up emails, and the follow-up emails will go to anyone who has not responded to any of my previous emails. If they reply to an email, I can make it so that they won't get any other follow-up emails. There are options for that. But I want to show you exactly what the email template itself looks like, because I know some of you have questions about personalization, like how much can I personalize the outreach emails for the recipients? And the short answer is very much so. You can personalize it so that every single recipient has a unique, so that they'll have a unique email specifically for them that mentions things like their name, their company. You can even also have merge fields where you will add some additional information if you want to further personalize your messages for these contacts. So if I click on this email, for example, I'm going to show you what my template looks like. So I get a little notice here that I'm using this email template in campaigns. And that's fine. And so I've got a name for my template here. I use some conditional logic. I have, and so the email subject, what it's going to look like is, insert company name here, Postaga, question mark. And like my pitch template is, I insert their first name, and I've got my pitch email here. But we also, if you see on the right side here, we've got a ton of merge fields that we can use related to either our contacts or their websites and things like that. And so I might want to add more personalization depending on what I want to do. I could even have a merge field where it requires that I enter in something specific for each contact personally. And so what I might do is, if I want to really personalize my pitch, I might have like a contact related merge field for like a compliment or something like, I really like the article that you posted on your blog recently about making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I found it very inspiring. Something like that, that shows and demonstrates that you know who these people are that you're reaching out to. So way that we can do that in Postaga, we have the ability to set up custom merge fields related to your contacts, related to websites that you're reaching out to, really everything, or even your campaign overall. So like I could also have like a campaign related merge field. So if I'm doing an outreach campaign specifically for people, for SEO agencies in New York, I can have a merge field that's for the entire campaign. And in that merge field, I might enter something like in New York SEO agencies. And my sentence might be something like, hey, I just wanted to reach out to you because you are a insert thing, New York SEO agency, and I wanted to see if you'd be interested in this. That's not necessarily a good pitch that I'd recommend, but just giving you an idea of how it works. So I've got this sequence here, and if I scroll down, I can see the preview of what this email series and sequence would look like for each of these contacts. And so it says, like, this one isn't a great example because it says your company instead of their company's name, but it does that as a backup default when you don't have the company field listed. As an example, another example here, I've got this person's name, this person's email address, their company name, and their name here. And I also have merge fields related to the city that I'm reaching out related to, which I'm going to edit that in another place here. But also, one other thing I wanted to share is if I want to overwrite any individual email, I can do that by clicking on the email area over here, and that'll take me into the individual email and let me overwrite it. And it will overwrite it just for that one contact. So another thing is this, I'm going to click this button here, and I've got other merge fields that I can use depending on my templates. One thing that I do is I use merge fields to let me know what kind of campaign I sent out, and for my analytics and things like that. So I might do like things like UTM codes or things like that with my link. I might do like UTM campaign equals New York City or something like that. And so it'll automatically set that up for that link, and I'm good. And so that's what the preview looks like. Then the next step is I can schedule the emails to go out, or I could send them out right now. But how it works with our platform, and it's very important, an important thing to mention is with doing email outreach, we want to make sure that we're getting to people's inboxes. And you don't want to be spammy or anything like that, especially because if you're doing things that are like mass emailing, that's going to get you quickly sent to people's spam folders or getting your email domain blacklisted or things like that. So one thing that we do with our platform specifically is we do two things. One, the emails that send out staggered so that it basically mimics real humans sending out the email. So it'll send out the email to the first contact, let's say at this time, and then at a random interval between a few minutes, randomly in a few minutes, it'll send out the email to the next person in the list, and so on. So until the whole list has the email sent to them. That's important because from the perspective of email platforms, if they see emails to hundreds of people going out all at once, that looks like some mass email program being used, and therefore this email doesn't look like it was sent by humans. And so we're going to either send it to a promotional tab or send it to a junk folder or something like that. The other thing that we do is we try and warm up the domain. So what we recommend is setting up either a separate domain or a separate subdomain for your outreach campaigns to keep it separate from your main domain. So like, for example, I've got the domain postaga.com, but I send my outreach emails from m.postaga.com. So it's sending from a subdomain to protect my main domain from like the worst case nightmare scenario of me getting blacklisted. Not that I would expect that we definitely shouldn't, but I really want to protect that domain. And so having the separate custom domain set up helps protect that. And then next up, we'll schedule our campaign out and it'll go out. And this whole process is pretty easily repeatable. I can do it over and over again in different cities, in different markets, with different business types that I want to connect with. And so like if you're used to the old processes of prospecting, this is significantly quicker. I know people who spend days and days doing manual prospecting, going company by company, but this brings it all to you. Next up, I want to show you how we're going to manage all of this. So whenever you get a reply to any of the messages that email outreach messages that are sent from Postaga, those emails will go right into, you'll get those emails sent to whatever email address you want them to be sent to. So that goes to your inbox. So you know, okay, we got a reply and here's what it is. And I can continue the conversation that way. But Postaga also has its own built-in CRM, so you can manage your leads and opportunities. So let me see if I'll pull this up. So if I click on this button on the sidebar here for the CRM, I've got a list of my leads that are and I can sort them by what's open, why what's won, different stages, as well as the type of opportunity that they are. So once they come in, kind of the first thing that you'll see, and I'll just click on one now, is you'll have kind of different options for how you want to categorize it. And here is me reaching out to Harry for some guest posting opportunities or things like that. When you get the reply, you can mark it however you want. I can change its status, its stage, their domain, categorize them by different opportunity type. We have different things like stages, like, all right, so there's something that I need to do. It's awaiting a response, queued, forwarded to the right person, closed, and then stages for won, open, or lost. And so I can keep all of that handy here for managing really all of my outreach campaigns. So if you're doing outreach for link building, you can mark that. If it's for a guest post or something like that, you can mark that as well. If you're doing podcast outreach, doing sales outreach, and so on, you can manage all of that from here, categorizing everything, sorting everything, and this way you know what's open and what you need to follow up with. And the follow-up is really the name of the game. You don't want to let anything fall through the cracks, especially like if you spent all this time to do outreach and get leads. We want to make sure that the people we're reaching out to, when they get back to us, that we can stay on top of them and stay in touch and follow up with them regularly as we need to do. So that's the basic workflow of how we do our outreach campaigns for sales lead gen. I have some other things in terms of also best practices that I want to share with you as well. So let me share those. And now we should be back at our slides here. Quick thumbs up if you see it. Just making sure I'm sharing the right screen. I'm pretty confident I got the hang of this. Cool. Thanks so much, Crystal. All right. So next up, let's talk about best practices for our outreach. So what's going to be in our email template? What are we going to say to the people that we're reaching out to? A common thing that I have seen a lot, and I'm sure even if like whether you're thinking about doing outreach for the first time or you've done it, or you've probably been on the receiving end of cold outreach emails, seeing messages like that start off with like, well, what do I say? I hope this finds you well, or hope your day is going well. Stop that. If you like, because it's a big flag. If I like open an email and for the most part, if I don't know who this person is and it says, hope your day is going well, I'm like, oh, okay, they're trying to pitch me something, and I'm going to be a little bit on my guard right away. And you don't want that as someone sending out these messages. So we want to try a little bit of a different approach. Just because someone's they're going to skim, they're going to see that first line, they're like, oh, okay, they're trying to sell me something, and I'm going to be skeptical from it right away. Just because also in general, for the most part, people who are reaching out to me, they may or may not know what it is my business does. And the people who do a bad job with cold outreach can certainly color our opinions. So here, I'm going to share with you the intro that I'm using now that is getting me good results. So the thing that I found effective is have a bit of a disarming introduction. So instead of saying like, hope you're doing well, I do something where I'm trying to be funny in my introduction. And I've gotten good feedback on this, so I know that it performs pretty well. So my message is, I found this email address, but I'm not sure if it's getting to a human person. I've been told that cats stacked on top of each other are hiding in a trench coat posing as human employees at your company. Can you let me know if a human gets this and if this is the person I should talk to? What crazy person sends this? Okay, like this sounds like a human, and it's going to be much more likely that they at least read further in the email. Someone pointed out charm offensive. Yes, so there is another great Facebook community and product and service called Charm Offensive that focuses on cold email outreach and has some ideas for how to have a different approach with cold email that stands out. And that's been some inspiration for me as well. So in terms of body of the email text, what are we going to have? And often on the receiving end, I see pitches that go straight into something like, "Hi, my name is Jeff, and I wanted to see if you have any need for mobile developers or app developers, and we can do ASP and JavaScript and so on and so on," and very much focusing on the services they provide rather than the benefits that I, as the customer, am going to receive, as well as kind of ignoring like the main issue that I'd want their services, like what's the problem that I have. And so I really like to focus from a very benefit oriented approach. So first, kind of like identifying the problem that they have that they would want to use my product or services, and showing the benefit that they'd get from using it. So like, start with the problem, provide your solution, and then give them incentive, and then kind of move the conversation forward. In your first email, it doesn't have to be so much of like saying like, all right, are you having a tough time coordinating your developers and not happy with the work that you're getting? If so, here are our rates and our solutions and things like that. You can sign up here. You don't necessarily go for the kill in the very first email because they don't know who you are, but you want to move the conversation forward. So here's an example I like actually from Harry at marketingexamples.com. And it's a very, very simple, kind of straightforward thing here. First, the problem. I'm a big fan of this podcast, but notice the audio is crackly. I'm guessing you're using Zoom, so that's the problem. The solution, helping you get better sound, and the incentive, I'd be happy to hook you up. Let me know what you think, and then kind of moving that forward. And notice that in here, they're not saying necessarily, here's a sign up link. They're trying to really keep the conversation going, move it forward, and take it from there. So one thing I would say is like the biggest thing that you can do is really frame your solution in terms of the benefit that the recipient gets from using your service or product, and not necessarily listing out the features of what your product does. This is probably the single biggest thing that I've seen that people do wrong with their cold sales pitches. A good illustration, the way that we were pitched the Apple iPod. I don't know if you're old enough to remember when the iPod was first released. It wasn't the very first MP3 player that came out into the market. There were other MP3 players out there. I had friends that had the Zune, as well as other just MP3 players that were very much like, we'll store a gig of MP3s on this small device, but Apple's pitch being 1,000 songs in your pocket. And that reframes the whole solution that they're providing, that you can really see that in a tangible way, as opposed to just trying to compare product versus product. Another thing, personalization is hugely important. One thing that I've seen that works particularly well, there are different approaches that you could have. I've done things like having my subject line be question and a question mark, or a quick question for you, or something like that. That's mysterious or vague. That does get good open rates, but might not get us a good reply rate, because you could have as your message, as your subject line, quick question. That's an easy way to automate that for your entire list of people you're reaching out to. But it doesn't demonstrate that you know who it is that you're reaching out to or what they do. So if I've seen that having the contact's name or having their company name in the subject line it may not actually, I found that it doesn't necessarily have as good an open rate as like quick question, but it does have a better reply rate overall. So I found that's interesting because it gets them curious. It's like, oh, okay, this person knows who my company is, and maybe has something that's relevant for me. So that gets you past that kind of first hurdle. Next up, using a first name in the greeting line. I mean, that seems obvious, but that is important. Saying like "Hey there" or just "Hey," like if you're on the receiving end, you've probably gotten a lot of those emails in the past, and so it's like, all right, so this person who's reaching out to me doesn't really know what I do, and maybe the product that they have is relevant for me, but the fact that just the fact that there is no personalization in that greeting line is going to make me more suspicious and more on my guard and overall less likely to respond to that. Other things, you can do conditional logic in your outreach emails. So for example, one thing that I do, like if the contact is generic, I have a different first line, like in terms of generic, meaning if the contact's email address is contact at or info at, it's not the exact person that I'm trying to reach, but it's the only email address that I found for that company. I might have a different intro line, something more along the lines of trying to get in touch with the right person at the company, rather than coming from the approach that I know the person that I'm reaching out to and I know that they are the right person. So another thing that I've personally found extremely helpful, just when you're creating that template, when you're creating these emails, read them back to yourself. Like pretend that you've gotten this in your inbox. How would try and be kind of removed from the fact that you've built this email, but if you were to receive this email, how would you respond? Maybe even share it with a colleague or a friend, someone who can be a little bit more objective about it and give you feedback on it. Because that for me has been a very kind of eye-opening thing. I've shared my email pitches with colleagues and coworkers, and I get a lot of great feedback. Like, well, it's kind of been very humbling. Like, yeah, if I got this email, that first line doesn't really do it for me, I'm going to just forget it and just archive it or delete it right away. So that in particular for me has been super helpful. I would strongly recommend that. Pretend that you just received this and have no idea who the person is who's reaching out to you. So even if they have the best product in the world in the space, pretend that you have no idea who this is. How would you react if someone just messaged you out of the blue? Another thing, follow-ups. So with my email sequences, I like to have a cadence of having multiple emails, which is important to me because you won't necessarily get every recipient to open that first email, and having follow-ups increases the likelihood that your email gets opened and responded to. So absolutely have a sequence of several emails. And I do things also sometimes like not just having like a follow-up email. Like I'll have a follow-up email like 5 days or 7 days later that says, hey, just wanted to follow up and see what your thoughts were. And then after that, I'll follow up another 5 to 7 days later and follow up saying, hey, I hadn't heard back from you, just wanted to see what you thought, and a quick recap and then like a very brief recap of what it was that I was reaching out about. And then having a further delayed follow-up, like, okay, if I've reached out 3 times or 4 times, I'm going to have another delay and then reach back out 30 days later and then 60 days later, because sometimes the product is perfect and relevant, but the timing is not right. And so I've also found that, just having a similar message a month later, just saying, hey, I wanted to circle back. I know the timing might not have been right, but wanted to see if this is something that you're interested in revisiting now. It's all about timing. Like if someone's in the market for your product, not now, but 30 days from now or a month from now or months plural from now, having that follow-up and keeping the conversation going can be helpful. In general, I like to have between 3 to 5 emails in my sequence overall. You could have more if you're also following up over a period of months. Another thing, I don't recommend sending on weekends. It's just less likely to get a response. So next, let's talk about what to expect. So you might be wondering, well, what am I going to get from my outreach emails? So you're going to get a variety of responses. I'm going to be honest with you. You're going to get some people who are going to say unsubscribe or stop sending me these. On a rare occasion, someone may swear at you. I had that happen to me once and it hurt my feelings. Or you might get something like not right now. And this is going to happen. It just is a fact. If you're reaching out to hundreds, thousands of people, they're not all going to be in the market for what you have. So they're going to say no. But you're going to get people who are going to say, sure, tell me more, or I'm curious to learn more about that. And for those people, you're going to follow up with them. If you're sending out hundreds of emails and not getting any positive responses, I think that might be also a good indicator that you need to vary up your messaging, that maybe like it's not resonating with the audience quite right. If you're sending out hundreds of emails and you're like, all right, so I have a large enough sample size now. I'm seeing that people are opening emails. I'm just not getting replies. Is there something about my pitch that it just is not resonating with them and making them want to move forward? So I'd keep that in mind also. So next up, other things. I mentioned before kind of having a multi-channel approach. So not necessarily just reaching out via email, but also doing it in tandem with something like LinkedIn can increase the likelihood that you get your email replied to, because now that cold email is not so cold, it's a little warm, and the people who receive it, your email, are like, oh, I recognize that name from somewhere, and you've already connected on LinkedIn. And you can also, if you want, follow up on LinkedIn. So you connect, send the email, week later or so, follow up on LinkedIn, in addition to the fact that you're following up via email, to get in front of that person better. So email and LinkedIn. Other words of wisdom. The main thing really is outreach is a numbers game. You are going to need to send out hundreds of emails to get responses. The more emails you send out, the more campaigns that you build, the better. And using the Postaga platform, you can easily see how you can build campaigns that have hundreds of contacts with not a whole lot of effort to that. And so we can help you build those campaigns and connect with as many businesses as possible. Also, your very first attempt may not be the best. I mean, my first attempts were not good in hindsight. I very much was very feature focused, like, hey, you should check out this. Like when I was doing cold outreach for my agency years and years ago, I was doing cold outreach very much like, hey, wanted to see if you need a web designer or something like that. And we offer these services. And it's like, I know now what I did wrong. And for the future, I learned and I got much better over the years. So last thing I want to share with you before we get to Q&A. If you currently don't have a Postaga Pro account, I wanted to share with you a one-time discount for your first month. So normally it's $99 US a month for our Pro plan, which gives you access to thousands of contacts to reach out to each month. But we also have a deal now for your very first month of our Pro plan, which will be $9 if you check out using the code Sales Lead Gen. And that's going to be open for the remainder of this week, closing out this Friday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. So if you really want to check out doing sales lead gen outreach with Postaga, to be able to reach out to thousands of different contacts and companies, this is a pretty low effort way to inexpensive way to try it out and see if it's going to get you the results. And it's $9 for the first month. Subsequent months, it's back to the regular rate of $99 per month. But the idea here is $9 per month. It lets you try it out, see if it's a good fit for you. And hopefully, if we're helping you make any sales, then it's worth keeping up with. So next steps, where should we go from here? Well, if you haven't yet, check out our Facebook group, which is all about link building, digital marketing, and cold outreach. It's a really great community. Every week we have new posts that people are sharing, everything from sharing their latest blog articles to sharing guest posting opportunities, link exchanges, wins, and things like that. Strongly recommend checking that out. What else? Check out Postaga at postaga.com. And if you want to, I'm happy to share a personal demo with you and share insights, take a look at any of your campaigns or give you recommendations. You can grab a personal demo with me by going to postaga.com/demo. And next up, we will get to Q&A. We have a lot of questions here. I'm excited to get to all of them. So let's see what questions we've got. Can you give me an example of a company that sells via cold email? Any business-to-business company that's selling to other businesses is a good fit, a good candidate for doing cold outreach. And most large businesses, most businesses I find are doing some form of cold outreach that are selling to other businesses. I know plenty of agencies and digital marketers that do cold outreach. I know plenty of software companies that do cold outreach. In fact, I'd say that I know a lot of SaaS and software companies that have the very team approach of doing cold email outreach, where I mentioned before, they do prospecting. They have people who do, they have people who do prospecting, people who do the outreach, and people who do the demos and sales and follow-ups and things like that. 2 questions about data. So where is the data from, and how is Postaga finding the leads? So, so all of the leads that we're finding are found at that moment. We do not find it through we don't have like a database, for example, of existing companies or anything like that we're pulling from. All this data is found through a variety of parameters and ways that we search across the internet for relevant businesses. It's not through specific databases. We know that like one challenge has been that there are some apps and companies out there that like give you access to their databases of companies. But the problem with that is a lot of them have outdated information that needs to be regularly updated, that isn't, that gets you in touch with the wrong people. So everything, all the contacts that we're finding, all of the companies that we're finding, that's being found live. Someone mentions, in the event we make a personalized video for each company, how would we introduce it in the campaign so that each URL reaches the correct company? So one way to do that is if you insert a merge field, a custom merge field specifically related to that contact, you can basically go through each contact and insert that at the right spot. I'm going to show you right now actually how we do that. I think a lot of people will be interested in that. So let me share real quick. So I've got this campaign over here, and I've got these contacts. And so if I click this expanded view next to contacts here, this gives me kind of the more advanced features. And so if I create a merge field for like Meta, and I have merge fields for like podcast topic or compliment for that company or something like that, I can create it for whatever I want. I can create it for like a video link, and I'll insert into our email template, insert contact field Meta compliment or something like that. And for every contact, then I would go through each of these, adding their personalized link for them. And that's how I would do that. Another question is, what was the name of that book again? That is Predictable Revenue, it's called. Predictable Revenue, great book. Was really eye-opening for me for learning how to do that. How to like kind of really build processes for doing sales outreach. How broad is the location filter set up? So it's city and country specific. So you could search for really, like we do have a database of every major city in every country. And so you could target different, you can target different countries and cities. So yeah, it's city specific. What else? How many domains should I use to send out cold emails? I would think so. One domain per company, I think, is sufficient. You could, but one thing that we do is we limit the amount of emails that you could send to 300 emails per day through the platform per email account. The reason being is if we send out more than that, you might get flagged, going to spam folders, all that stuff. That's no good. We don't want that. So what you could do is you could have multiple users and multiple users at a given domain and send campaigns from them like simultaneously, basically to different audiences and things like that. But you can also send up to 300 emails per day. And if you have a super big pipeline of people and you're like, all right, I want to send 1,000 emails a day, for something like that, you would definitely need more users for your company. Let's see. What else? I want to also be mindful of time. So if you got to jump, I know I blocked out an hour for this. If you can't stick around, please, we're going to thank you for joining us so much. I really appreciate it. I have a few more questions I'm going to get to. So the question is, my business is very industry and region focused. So we are a B2B marketplace for the TV industry in the Middle East and North Africa. I'm trying to focus specifically on that market. Very good question. I think actually it would be better if you could reach out to me personally. I'd be happy to help you out with that. So email is andy@postaga.com. That's my email address. I'm sharing with you all now. And you're going to get a follow-up after this as well. So last thing, I really want to thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all these great questions. If I didn't get to your questions, I'm going to message you personally. And yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone. And like I said, please check out Postaga. You can easily start doing your own cold sales outreach campaigns. And last thing, put this up here. If you didn't grab it yet, the code, if you want to write it down, is sales lead gen, and it expires this Friday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. So with that, thank you all for joining. I really appreciate this. This is a lot of fun. And we're also, when you close this out, we have a little mini survey to ask you about kind of other content, other types of webinars you would like to see from us. All right. Thanks, everyone.